It's been quite the political week. This week, the Western Cape High Court has dismissed, the ATM's application to compel the Speaker to conduct a secret ballot on the Phala Phala report. We also saw South Africa doing a bit of flip-flopping when it comes to the International Criminal Court, whether to leave the body or to stay. There was also quite a lot of talk around the powers of the electricity minister, with the ANC having gone into a lekgotla and giving back a report. So what does this all mean? Well, let's reflect on the political week that was. We're joined by political analyst Rebone Tau. Rebone, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Of course, let's not forget that Thapelo Ahmad resigned as the mayor of Johannesburg. Perhaps let's start with that, because on the weekend, right now, Johannesburg sits without a mayor, but on the weekend, there'll be a series of meetings to decide who will then take the mayoral chains in Johannesburg. What to make of his resignation?
Good afternoon to the viewers. I mean, this was bound to happen. If you look at what has been happening, especially him as the mayor, the public statement that he has been making, since he started his tenure. And I think the most recent, was about the loan or business investment, that he was speaking about, and having the chairperson of the ANC in Gauteng, who's the MMC of finance, coming out, and distancing himself from some of the statements that were made by Thapelo. So it's clear that he was finding it difficult to lead the economic hub, of this country, which is Johannesburg, as the mayor. And I think that the problem is that when you even speak to some right now, the rumor has it that Al-Jamaa might still again put up another candidate, for the position of mayor. And when you speak to people, they also complain that this is not in the best interest of the people of Johannesburg, the way the ANC and the EFF are handling this matter, and it's because when I spoke to some within the PEC of the ANC in Gauteng to ask, what is happening about this issue of the minority parties being given this mayoral positions, they made it clear to me that the ANC and the EFF can't be seen publicly voting with each other. That's why they opt to vote for minority parties. But obviously, it's for their own selfish interests. It has nothing to do with the citizens of Johannesburg at this present moment.
And then we heard from President Cyril Ramaphosa post the lekgotla of the ANC, or the meeting of the ANC. Let's take a look, listen what he told us.
It is prudent that South Africa should pull out of the ICC, largely because of the manner in which the ICC has been seen to be dealing with these types of problems. And there's also been commentary, I believe, from Amnesty International, where there's been a reflection on what many people believe is an unfair treatment. And our view is that we would like this matter of unfair treatment to be properly discussed.
So he was speaking there as he was hosting his Finnish counterpart, and no later had he uttered those words, we then heard something completely different, that actually, no, that's not what it was. What do you read into that moment?
I think this is the most, interesting, administration, especially when it comes to foreign policy, And, yes, remarks were made before by the Secretary General of the ANC, Fikile Mbalula, on the matter, and the President later, confirms literally what the Secretary General says. But when you speak, when I spoke to NEC members, trying to understand what is actually the thinking, because this is not a new matter on the table, the issue of the ICC. We can remember during the al-Bashir saga, when he was in South Africa a few years back, the ANC threatened to withdraw from the ICC and so forth, and not looking at what are the technicalities, because you just don't wake up and say we're going to withdraw. There's a process in Parliament to rectify, to take this thing through to Parliament, as it is in our Constitution. But what I was briefed, by the way, by one of the NEC members, was that President Ramaphosa was not in the meeting throughout the discussion on the ICC. So he left before the matter was actually resolved by the meeting. So Mbalula then goes and communicates his own decision while Mbalula is the custodian of the ANC resolutions of conference. And the meeting resolved that they should respect the resolutions of the 55th conference, which affirm that the South Africa should remain in the ICC. But one of the things they spoke about is that looking at countries like the US, who have not rectified, who are not signatories to the ICC, but continue to play a role when you see leaders being taken to the ICC, and America having done so much, around the world, whether Iraq, Iran, and so forth, but they can never be held accountable. So those are the dynamics within the ANC, trying to see how do they grasp with this thing, So it's going to be a very interesting one. We've seen that reports that it's likely that President Putin will be coming to South Africa, and what does that mean for the South African government at that level?
In fact, while there's confusion around that, there was also confusion, or there is confusion about the powers of the electricity minister. We understand that there's a few heads that are butting there in terms of territorial battles. Let's take a listen at what Fikile Mbalula had to say.
In our view, there shouldn't be an issue about what the Minister of Electricity can get in terms of powers. It's an operational matter. It's an issue that the NEC itself will reflect on, and the officials, but we expect the Minister of Electricity to have some powers to be able to do work and intervene directly, because his work is short term, is to do away with load shedding. And if you need powers to intervene, then that must actually be addressed expeditiously. So,
how do you end load shedding when you can't even scratch your head?
This is, I think President Ramaphosa should take actually responsibility for this, because he should have made it clear, when he appointed the Minister of Electricity, because that's the question that has been going around. What are the powers of the Minister of Electricity in terms of how does he relate to the Department of Minerals and Energy? And some have argued that mineral and energy is more about regulation and policy, And now we know that there was a cabinet meeting, by the way, before this National Executive Committee meeting, and a cabinet meeting to discuss the matter on electricity. And it was not a good meeting at all, And I feel sorry for the Minister of Electricity, President Ramaphosa. He needs to be bold and take hard decisions and stop playing the politics that he's playing, because you can see that he's also trying to manage the relations with Gwede Mantashe, who's the national chair, who plays also a very central role going back to the Phala Phala, because the Phala Phala matter also is not yet resolved within the ANC. If you remember, the conference said they are giving it back to the National Executive Committee to deal with. We know that even the former president Thabo Mbeki, he wrote that letter addressing it to the deputy president of the ANC, how they've dealt with the issue of Phala Phala. So President Ramaphosa at this present moment is not able to take decisive decisions around ESCOM, because he needs to also massage the ego of Gwede Mantashe at this present moment. And that is really putting a country in a very serious challenge, because then that delays, finding a lasting solution to the issue of load shedding in this country. We can see these days it's no longer even stage 6, they might say stage 6, but we can see that this is like stage 8, and that also has got an impact, on the economy of this country, this load shedding matter, if it's not yet resolved. So President Ramaphosa needs to be bold, needs to be decisive, and if for now he can even separate minerals and energy, because you must remember that before they were not the same department, minerals and energy were merged, at a later stage.
In fact, to your point, this is what his right-hand man, at least in terms of position within the NEC, had to say this week about that.
We expect the president to run his cabinet, not his cabinet running itself. If he's got a problem with that, then we will have a problem with him. So the president can't allow reports like there is a fallout, there is territorial battle, there is this and that, as if this country is leaderless. We can't allow that. That must be clear. And that will be even clearer in this meeting. We can't come to the public and to you and tell you that the government we run is confused about what Sputla needs to do. The president is the chief executive officer of the country and the republic. He must give direction.
As if the country is leaderless, is it clear to you that there's direction not only at party but at national level?
I mean, some have been argued that South Africa is actually on an autopilot. We're just moving, we don't know which direction we're taking. And this is because of President Ramaphosa failing to be decisive on any matter. He's too casual, he's not able to resolve any political matter, or from an administration point of view, this administration is, I think, one of the weakest administrations that we have come across, since the dawn of our democracy, and it's very disappointing because this is a man that has made many promises to South Africans, and we're going to 2024, and we ask ourselves that beyond 2024, is things still going to continue to be like this? We thought actually that going to the ANC 55th conference, coming back with a new mandate, as he's serving his second term as the president of the ANC, being assured by delegates, by branches of the ANC, that he will be decisive, and we're still not seeing that decisiveness in him, which is a bit disappointing that the country is going through a very difficult time, but with a president who seems not to actually have interest in the business of this country.
Also this week, the African Transformation went to the courts and the Western Cape Division, finding that the application to set aside the Speaker's decision to reject a secret ballot was manifestly moot, and the court pointing out that in granting the order sought by the ATM, it would have no practical effect. Does that come as a surprise to you?
Not really. I mean, this issue, you must remember, I think around 2017, when Bale Kambete was the Speaker of the National Assembly, there was this matter at the Constitutional Court, and the Constitutional Court made it clear, that the Speaker, has the powers to whether decide on a secret ballot or not, and I think the ATM has failed to really argue, why is it that the courts must intervene on this matter, because also there is also what we call separation of powers, the court can tell the judiciary, what to do. The judiciary can tell the legislature what to do, So those are things that the ATM also can be playing politics, at this present moment. Especially there is a case, study that we can refer to in 2017, the judgment by the Court on the matters and the powers of the Speaker of Parliament.
Yeah, so maybe that may be the case, but what do you perceive the long game or the end goal is, right? To be that one party that consistently is chipping away where this matter is concerned and keeping it in public discourse, essentially.
I mean, it's clear that ATM also, because each and every party, has got its own issues that they focus on as a party in terms of holding the executive accountable and so forth. And they have been consistent on this Phala Phala matter, and they've made sure that they don't want it to be moved away from the public domain, But the reality of the matter is that President Ramaphosa does have a case to answer. He needs to explain himself, why is it that so much money was found in his house, and not give us, that wishy-washy answer that we have seen when he speaks at times, I mean, we remember at the ANC conference in Limpopo when he was just speaking about how he's a farmer and so forth, because it's unacceptable for such a person of his, someone who holds such a position to be having so much dollars in their house, because that can be money of illicit financial flows, and we know illicit financial flows, it's a big network globally, of money moving around, so we don't even know. I mean, this businessman, for example, he's linked to the former president of Sudan, al-Bashir, that also questions, what type of business relationship did he have? But ATM has really decided to have this on the agenda, and this is, I think, also they're using it to campaign, to profile themselves also as a party going to the 2024 elections. And as I've indicated earlier on, you even have the former President Thabo Mbeki also saying that the ANC, how it has voted around this matter in Parliament, it was wrong, And I agree with President Thabo Mbeki on the matter, because it can't be that the ANC, as a People's Party, as they claim to be, they never want to hold their leaders accountable, and we see the country going through a lot. I mean, the 2021 July unrest, if the ANC could have handled the then President Zuma matters differently, we'd have not had the July unrest. Those were linked to ANC, how it handles its business as an organization.
Someone born on the 27th of April in 1994, yesterday would have turned 29. What does South Africa's political landscape have to offer that 29-year-old? By and large, we can argue because of the very high unemployment rates as well, that person has not been exposed to as much opportunity as they should have been. And so what incentive do they have then in 2024, taking a look at the political landscape in South Africa, to head to the polls?
I mean, this is going to be one of the most, difficult elections. I mean, if you look at even the voter turnout, that person who's 29 is a young person, is a youth below 35, and we look at in every elections how we see young people actually not really wanting to interact when it comes to elections. They don't go out and vote. Some don't even go and register. It's because of some have given up. You have a 29-year-old probably who has never even worked in their entire life, since after they've completed matric, they're not able to find work, and probably even now they're just surviving with the 350 that is there. We don't know for how long will the government introduce a basic income grant. So, and I think also most of the political parties that we don't have in this country, like strong political parties, in terms of bring a different perspective to the country. I mean, we've just seen recently 3 new political parties being formed: the Rise and Busa and the one of Bongane Bado, But we will see if they will be able to interact and speak to that youth vote, because young people, yes, will speak like about the ruling party, that yes, it has delivered the democracy, the freedom, but in terms of the economic freedom in their lifetime, they have not seen it, and the EFF, some have criticized it that, they stand for this, but they do things differently. So it's going to be a very interesting election and at this present moment, it's not clear which party will actually be able to persuade that youth vote to go out and vote, because the likelihood is that young people, most of them, will still continue not to participate in the elections come 2024, because they don't have any hope in the system. They don't have any hope in the political parties at the moment.
Rebone Tau is a political analyst. Thank you very much for helping us understand the political week that was.